Ladies and gentlemen, welcome after the break. I hope that you had some time to discuss those interesting topics that we are discussing today. Five discussion panels ahead of us. We are going to discuss those ideas that concern the future and the development of the future of the European transport, as well as we will talk about the challenges. We are really looking forward to the debates. We are going to have insightful conversations with ministers, deputy ministers, representatives of European and international institutions, as well as specialists and representatives of coordinators. The first high-level panel is entitled Investment Needs in the Context of a Renewed TEN-T Policy and Geopolitical Challenges. But first of all, let's have a look at a video featuring the fast-paced development of the transport sector in Poland. This is going to be an introduction to our today's debates. You must admit that the level of this development is really impressive. Now I would like to invite the moderator of this first debate, Professor Paweł Wojciechowski, coordinator of the European Transport Corridor North Sea Rhine Mediterranean. So it's over to you, dear Professor.
Good morning, everyone, in the beautiful city of Łódź, in this great place. I hope to bring more, because it's old. There was mentioned that was produce electricity here, so I hope we have more kind of power here now in this debate and high-level debate. And I'm very honored and privileged to have to chair this session and on investment needs in the context of the TEN-T policy and in context of the geopolitical challenges. And you remember from what was said by our host, Minister Dariusz Klimczak, and also Commissioner Tzitzikostas, there is two dimensions of that. One is competitiveness, and another one is security. And this is the topic of the Polish presidency as well, the security. And of course, we will discuss the dual-use investments as well, but in fact, we will concentrate on investment needs. As Commissioner Tzitzikostas said, to have this conversation more inspiring and motivated, we need to come together at this high-level panel to the common conclusion. Because my role as the European coordinator is to coordinate. And we need to coordinate the corridors, TEN-T corridors, but at the same time, the ministers need to coordinate the EU transport policy in view of the TEN-T renewed the regulation. So need to coordinate for deepening internal market, to provide good financing, enough financing in the next financial perspective. So we're looking forward for this discussion. Let me invite to stage ministers. First, Minister, of course, Minister Dariusz Klimczak, the Minister of Infrastructure of the Republic of Poland. Now, Grozdan Karadżov, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Transport and Communication of the Republic of Bulgaria. Mr. Alexis Vafaedas, Minister of Transport, Communication and Public Works from Cyprus. Mr. Christos Staikouras, Minister for Infrastructure and Transport from Greece. Mrs. Lulu Rane, Minister of Transport and Communications from Finland. Mr. Martin Kupka, Minister of Transport from Czech Republic. And of course, Mrs. Magda Kopczyńska, Director General of the Directorate General for Mobility and Transport for the European Commission. And now the representative from European Parliament, Mr. Dariusz Joński, member of, for the Committee of Transport and Tourism. No. Now I continue in English, of course, although I speak Polish, but maybe some of you want to use the headphones as well, because we have interaction in Polish as well. We have heard the presentation and the opening of Minister Klimczak and Commissioner Tzitzikostas. So based on that, what we've heard, now we try to move to the view of ministers. And yes, did I forget about something? Oh yeah, there's one missing place. I'm sorry about that. Okay. Okay, I think from Lithuania, right? I'm sorry. Mr. Eugenijus Sabutis, Minister of Transport and Communication from Lithuania. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. I skip the very important neighbor, of Poland. So I'm sorry. Very sorry, Minister. So, but now we'll just start with the interventions of ministers one by one to understand the investment needs. Some ideas about geopolitics and some ideas about financing, how to get the money. What is the ideas about that? And we start with Bulgaria, with Deputy Prime Minister, because of course you have a very important role to play integration in Southern Eastern Europe, and in fact you are at one time a Deputy Prime Minister and a Minister of Transport. So you have the broader view, and therefore what is your view on the macro perspective on the need to develop the infrastructure, the transport infrastructure for the economy?
Thank you. First of all, dear Minister Klimchak, dear ministers, dear Madam Mayor, dear Madam Marshal, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I am really proud, and it's an honor for me to participate in this forum and in this discussion, and I would like to express my gratitude to our Polish hosts for the invitation and the excellent organization. Thank you. I am especially proud that Poland has chosen the slogan for its presidency to be Security Europe. And as I feel it, it has two meanings. One says security for Europe, but the other is like a scream, saying, wake up, Europe. People need more security. And the priorities, defense and security, stronger defense and more security for the people, protection for the people and the boundaries, and the freedom of economy. These are the guarantees how Europe can be more secure territory. We are proud that we can show our solidarity to Poland, and we can continue to work together in order to strengthen our defenses. And in order to strengthen our defenses, we need to strengthen our economies. And for this, we need to give more freedom to the economy to develop. And to accomplish all this, both people and economy, they would need a better transport infrastructure all over Europe, including the more remote countries like my own, who are in the periphery of Europe and who are have a significant amount of outer boundaries to the European Union. That is why today, more than ever, we recognize the crucial role of transport infrastructure as the backbone of our economies and society. However, the development of a coherent and seamless transport network across Europe and its neighboring regions remains a major challenge. Its importance has been highlighted by the war in Ukraine, which has had a profound impact on all sectors of the economy, including transportation. Trade flows have been disrupted, supply chains are under pressure, and there is an urgent need to adapt our infrastructure to the new realities. The importance of a well-connected and resilient European transport corridors has never been greater. In this context, it is imperative that we take decisive action to mitigate current disruptions and as well to address shortcomings to ensure that our transport networks will remain stable and functional in the face of external shocks. Southeastern Europe, the region where our country is situated, plays an important transport gateway linking the Western and Central Europe with the Black Sea region and the Eastern Mediterranean. It lies along the land routes to Central and East Asia. The development of transport infrastructure in this part of Europe is essential, not only for regional growth, but also for strengthening the overall European transport network. On the other hand, we have to admit that the north-south connections in our region and in our country too are lagging behind. With the war in Ukraine, they have become critical for the diversion of trade and goods. Bulgaria's north-south transport corridors are not only support regional growth, but also play a key role in the wider European integration and security efforts. These transport links are crucial both for Bulgaria's economic development and for regional stability in the face of changing geopolitical dynamics. And that is why the European Commission and the Member States should work together in order to ensure the urgent and coherent development of the North-South transport corridors in our region and to secure the necessary funding to implement these important projects as elements of the TEN-T network. Bulgaria is working closely with its neighbors to develop north-south links between them. One of the key projects is the construction of a new combined bridge across the Danube. So far, we have only 2 bridges passing through the river Danube and more than 350 kilometers of boundary with the river Danube towards Romania. And yes, it's a shame that both these bridges are a huge bottleneck for the auto transport, but also for the railway transport. That is why our aim, and I think it should be our common aim, to link Central, Northern, and Western Europe with the southeastern region, the Mediterranean, but also to Black Sea. The Black Sea route, the so-called middle route, is the shortest route of Europe to Asia. As part of the Rhine-Danube corridor, we are committed to ensuring good navigation conditions along inland waterways, both through regular maintenance and actions with a long-term horizon. In recent years, we have developed excellent cooperation with our Greek colleagues, elaborating joint multimodal projects to connect our seaports and contribute to the development of the European Baltic Sea, Black Sea, Aegean Sea transport corridor. Achieving these ambitious goals will take time, careful planning, and substantial financial resources, for which we rely very much on European funding. Bulgaria remains fully committed to the strengthening of the European transport network and ensuring that our infrastructure meets TEN-T standards and requirements. Together, through close cooperation and strategic investment, we can build a better connected, resilient, and competitive European transport system. The road ahead requires unity, vision, and commitment, and I'm confident that by working together, we will achieve a more sustainable and efficient transport network for the benefit of all Europeans. At the end, dear ladies and gentlemen, I hope, no, it's better to say I'm absolutely sure that under the Polish presidency, Europe will become a stronger and even safer place for our people to live. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Deputy Prime Minister, for those nice words about also the Polish presidency. And since you mentioned Baltic Sea, Black Sea, Aegean Sea corridor, which goes north-south axis, and you can see on the map, we move right away to Cyprus, you know. And what you make of it, Minister?
Does it work? Yeah. So, thank you. Thank you for this important opportunity to express our views on this, and I would like to say hi to everybody, especially to the Deputy Prime Minister. Thank you for this event. I think it's very, very important. Okay, this north-south axis is, of course, part of an effort to integrate Europe. It's part of an effort to bring everybody together, of joining up routes that will join not only the center of Europe to the periphery, but most importantly, to join the periphery to the center of Europe. And I think this is in line with Europe championing peace through prosperity. And having that in mind, I think we should give even more emphasis on integration and trying to find more efficient ways of transporting goods and people this will bring peace and understanding between all cultures within Europe. But most importantly, I think beyond improving efficiencies, beyond creating seamless routes throughout all nations and all EU member countries, which is very, very important, but I think we should move a step forward. And in an effort to address all the geopolitical issues that we're facing, the war in Ukraine, the unrest and the wars in the Middle East, which seem to take a rest and then seem to be up and at it again, I think we need to try and find ways of not only integrating Europe, but also expanding the culture of Europe through transport, through trade, through commercial activities, beyond the borders of Europe. I think most of the issues we face, the issue of war, the issue of migration, which is really challenging the basis and the foundation of the European Union, I think we should be addressing them by exporting the European culture of peace and prosperity through commerce, through activities, culture, and I think that can be done primarily through transport. I mean, we are today in this wonderful city of Lodz, which is proof of what transport can do to transform a city into what it is today, into a booming scene where people flourish and are able to live in peace and chase their dreams. So I think through transport we should be aiming to do that and export this same example beyond our borders, and that we hope will bring peace. Now, I think we all have big visions of where we can go, and I'm positive that no state budget can really take care of all these projects we have in mind within the period of time that we would like to complete all these projects. Time is of the essence, and the faster we are able to materialize, to finish projects, the better things will be, and therefore we feel that it's absolutely essential to partner transport with commercial activity, engage the private sector, engage investments from the private sector, and through transport create the setup whereby the private sector can invest in infrastructure projects, and that will bring forward the completion of many, many projects that will in the end achieve the spreading of this European culture throughout the region. And I hope that that will be part of the CEF project in the near future. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, this is, thank you very much, Mr. Alexis Vafaedas. It was very nice words showing the need for transport from the perspective of values of the European Union, looking for European value added, all the transport projects. One of them is, of course, the focus on cross-border projects, which is the main task of the European coordinators. Now I turn to Minister Eugenijus Sabutis, from Minister of Transport from Lithuania. Again, I'm sorry, you're very important, and you realize one of the most important cross-border projects in Europe, Rail Baltica.
Yeah, thank you. It's a very interesting week because the last week in Lithuania and the Baltic states, we were witnessed by one interesting thing, that we have created an electric grid link with the rest of Europe. We haven't had that for 30 years, and now we have it. So this was one of the biggest projects in the energy sector. But now we are facing another big projects, we are facing another big challenges, and so far in Lithuania and in other states we are talking about very important thing, which we call very simple. It's missing links. And in the terms of transportation, in the terms of transportation sector, we are seeing that we cannot do it only by ourselves. Looking at the TEN-T corridors, looking at the other infrastructure projects, we face the problems as any other country faces. We see that we have only just about 6 years remaining to complete this TEN-T core network, and some of those corridors, they are still lacking even the base infrastructure, making accelerated investment and execution critical. And why it is critical and why it is so important? Because the war in Ukraine has exposed the vulnerability of critical infrastructure, as Russian military actions has deliberately targeted power generation facilities, communications, and transportation networks. So those vital installations means that we have to not only implement those projects, not only fasten them, but the main thing that we have allocate enough funds for that. So only in Lithuania, I think that every other minister and every other professional from their country, they know how much of the funding they need for those projects. And only in Lithuania for required investment for completion of our TEN-T core network by the year 2030 is approximately from 12 to 18 billion euros. So in comparison, and Minister Klimchak said it very clearly and very loud here, standing before us, he said that the EU will need around 845 billion euros during the next 15 years to complete its core and extended core TEN-T network. So in the period of 2014 and 2020, let's say, for example, CEF budget was only 23.2 billion euros, and in the years 2021, 2027, it would be 25.8 billion euros. So this means that during in those years, and European Union allocated or could allocate only 50 million euros from those more than 800 billion euros, for those more than 800 billion euros needed. So we think that this amount of funding is clearly insufficient for full development of TEN-T infrastructure. Of course, as a country, Lithuania remains committed to completing this Rail Baltica project by the year 2030. We know that every country, not only we as country, but every other country that related to this project also faces their challenges. Not only external challenges, which are related to the insufficient funding, but also internal challenges. We are dealing with those challenges, but you know, as we are talking about missing links, we see, as every other professional in infrastructure sector, we see that, you know, it's like a symbol of human body. When you have a blood vessel system, if you are missing some link, then your body is, you know, is very sick. So in connection to this project, we see that we have to work also very closely with all of our partners from Estonia, from Latvia, especially partners from Poland and other partners, because we don't want to see this project, you know, completed only in one or two countries, because if we are completed by year 2030 and our partners are not completed, so we have a lot of missing links. And of course, we think that in order to ensure the smooth implementations of European Union's priority projects, such as Rail Baltica, so we need to consider some necessary adjustment to the EU transport funding schemes. And I think the most important thing that I know that everyone knows that, So one of the most crucial insights from the past experience, especially from the past experience, that large-scale infrastructure projects, they require long-term financial security, so which cannot be provided through isolated funding calls and funding gaps between multinational financial framework periods. So, for example, Rail Baltica projects will face, and we know for sure that is facing a 2-year UN funding gaps from year 2026 to year 2028 before the next MFF cycle begins. Such a pause in a construction is inefficient and costly, leading to delays, increased costs, and loss of expertise and resources. So to mitigate those risks, a more flexible financing mechanism must be introduced to ensure that projects do not stall between funding cycles. And we are sure that this Rail Baltica project impact on the EU transport system is and could be and would be very massive, but we also know that EU has a lot of transportation and infrastructural projects as well. So we do not think that some rules can change only for this project. We think that some rule can be changed for all the projects, all the infrastructural projects, that are, that are costly, that are very huge, big, and those projects that last for not only for 2, 3, or 4 years, they can last even for decades. And one of the last things that I would like to state that when this project started, as well as a lot of projects, especially in Central Europe, in Eastern Europe. So for the first, we thought that those projects, would be for passengers, for cargo, but not for military uses. And now we're facing challenges that more and more of those projects, more and more of our infrastructural facilities, of our infrastructure is being used for military purposes. And for example, we have one European gauge line from Polish border to Kaunas, and it is used by military in just 2 years. The use of a military transportation increased by 40%. So we know that it's not only temporary, but it is our, we can say for sure and for certainty that it is our future. Not only passengers, not only cargo, but also the military. So for those purposes, we also need to gather all of our, expertise, all our, I hope, all of our political strength to persuade European Commission, to persuade those people who can amend specific regulation and specific requirements, and to propose them the new regulation that can be for safety of our region and also for safety of Ukraine. Thank you.
Well, I understand what you've said is from geopolitical point of view, the war of aggression of Russia, we need more flexibility. On one side, have a dual use military mobility, but on the other side, there is a question of stability of funding between the different perspectives. So now we have a question of how to stabilize the funding for projects like Rail Baltica, and it's very important. But also, the funding, 845 billion euro, it's not the amount that would be supplied by CEF, new funds for the European Union. Of course, the state funding is very important, but also private funding. And this is the idea that we have to look for private money, to mobilize private money. And of course, now I want to move to private money and the view of TEN-T in the framework of logistics. And now I'd like to ask Minister Christos Staikourouas if I pronounce the right name, yes, Minister of Infrastructure and Transport from Greece. Could you comment how your perspective on maybe Greece and logistics, because you want to be, put on the kind of idea of logistic hub, for places, in Greece. Yes.
Okay. First of all, I would like to thank a lot the Polish presidency for providing this opportunity in order to exchange and share some priorities and views regarding the European vision for transportation. I will not concentrate in my initial position on logistics, on the Greek ports. We saw some ports here, or on the two main corridors, because if we do not meet at the European level the challenges we face, and if the European Commission is not be persuaded about the need to enhance the financing envelope for transport, always we will discuss about our quota and how we will capture our quota, even if we have private money, among others from PPPs. So first of all, we have to agree about our vision. Apostolos mentioned this vision: a seamless network of roads, railways, ports, and airports that connect every corner of our continent, offering greener, faster, and more efficient transport for passengers and goods. And quite recently, we had two reports, the Letta and the Draghi reports, and we share the concerns raised in these two reports, which emphasize the importance of efficient and sustainable continent-wide mobility and the need for coordinated planning and investment to meet decarbonization goals in the transport sector. So this is the vision. Two are the pillars in order to apply on this vision: the TEN-T and investments, as you mentioned before. Why investments? First of all, for sustainability reasons. This is quite crucial. Funding must be accessible for projects that span multiple countries, like Bulgaria, it was mentioned before, or Cyprus, complete missing links, and eliminate discontinuities within countries and at the cross-border level. The first reason for investments thus is sustainability. The second reason, it was mentioned by the Polish colleague, development and competitiveness. It's crucial to enhance investment in order to achieve these goals. We strongly believe that a significant portion of the money must be dedicated to upgrading rail networks and electrifying transport corridors. The third reason for investments has to do with resilience. According to a study coming up from the European Commission, it shows that growing risks arise in Europe, like heat waves, floods, wildfires, earthquakes. We have some problems in Greece quite recently. So we have to find a balance between mitigation and adaptation. We need money in order to achieve both goals. To address these vulnerabilities, an estimated investment of 71 billion euros in 2023 terms is needed to adapt TEN-T infrastructure for mid-century climate conditions. So the third reason has to do with resilience. And the fourth reason has to do with stability, security, and political and social cohesion. The war in Ukraine has disrupted regional supply chains and energy flows, directly affecting the TEN-T corridors in Eastern Europe. We must ensure that critical infrastructure projects in these regions are protected from instability and enhance the resilience of these corridors against future geopolitical shocks. Investments in infrastructure that links the EU to its eastern and southern neighbors, including through the European transport corridors, will strengthen European Union's economic security and mitigate external vulnerabilities. Thus, we need the TEN-T and we need investments for sustainability, for development, for competitiveness, for resilience, for security, for political stability, for social cohesion. How will we find investments? We have some instruments, but we need some more. Or we have to enhance these instruments. For example, we had the RRF. In Greece, a significant portion of the envelope was for infrastructure and transport reasons. We have the CEF2. We have the MFF. We have PPPs. To conclude, this is why we believe that we need much more investments on transport. And this is why we signed with 10 more member states, but my colleague from Czech Republic, who took the initiative, will speak about that, a statement asking from the European Commission more money for transport. Thank you.
I guess everybody's applauding more money for transport. That's for sure. In this, but okay. But maybe we should have a Minister of Finance here sitting with us, so we can discuss how to get the money as well.
I was the Minister of Finance for 8 years.
Well, I was very short as a Minister of Finance. I know it is a tough task, Minister. So I appreciate your comment on that. And I would like to, because you mentioned six objectives, and quite a few of them. But of course, it turned down to have more investments in transport. And one of them, of course, was defense. And of course, there's discussion about dual-use investments, military mobility. And I want to turn to Minister Lulu Rane from Finland on this issue, because Finland joined NATO. And does it change the perspective now for you on dual-use investments, or is it just not much? What's your comment on that?
Maybe first I would thank you, Poland, for this conference, and I must greet you all, friends of building infrastructure in this room. We really need cooperation now more than ever. And then the slogan of Poland, I must say, security Europe, we Finns love it. And this has a lot to do with us joining NATO. Of course, in Finland, we have been building our defense for decades. We never gave up. But now, in these times, of course, the infrastructure has to be strengthened more. It has to be ready for all our tanks, our resilience, our security of supply needs more than what we have at the moment in Finland. And now, we should not forget Ukraine. In 3 years, the heavy burden the Ukrainians have carried, human lives, the destruction of their country, their home country. Now we have to remember that all the time, also in this conference. We cannot underline this enough. But then to NATO. As I mentioned, in Finland, we have been building our infrastructure also for dual use through all these years. The civil society and the military use the same routes. It's not something. There's the same thing in Finland, and of course now with the membership of NATO, the awareness of these needs of the critical infrastructure are bigger. But we have been cooperating cross-sectoral with our defense sector, our defense ministry, defense forces for all time. So we have exactly the same situational picture of what the Nordic countries, the Arctic countries need from the infrastructure. So this really is a big question. We need to move people, vehicles, other equipments in all situations, and of course we need to get rid of the bottlenecks of our infrastructure. The ground has to be ready for everything. In general, when you look, all of us, we want more money, we want more big projects. We should not be selfish. We should look at the big map of Europe. What are the critical areas from the European point of view, from NATO point of view, and then actually our countries that are represented here now today are crucial. We really have to be ready. Our infrastructure has to be ready for the future. The EU funding for fulfillment of the TEN-T networks and the goals of the new regulation together, we really have to, they must be arised from the weakening security environment as a whole. And that must be met in the MFF instrument. But maybe a few words from up north. I know that it's a bit maybe difficult for you to understand what we up north in the cold countries, hardworking and quite stubborn people, what we need. The connections. Our Baltic colleague mentioned the missing links. And actually, what the biggest missing link and the priority number one in the Nordic countries is the land connections from Finland to Sweden and to Norway. The NATO countries, the European countries need these connections. And at the moment, we are having ready a report about changing our track gauge. Actually, Finland is one of the only countries with a Russian track still. Ukraine, they are changing it. The Baltic countries are changing, and we are still stuck. And this is our priority number one, and it has a lot to do with NATO. And of course, we have been cooperating with all Nordic countries on this question. And it's about European security, European safety. It's not about our thing. Our border is the longest external border of the EU and the NATO towards east, 1,300 kilometers. This is something the European big network must remember. Of course, I assume that you really think that NATO changed something in Finland, but it really didn't too much. We know that we have more responsibilities, but we were prepared for this.
That's great, that's great. Thank you very much. Now let's move to another topic, which is now a proposal for the European Commission to have a high-speed rail, which will connect all the European capitals. And I would like to ask a question to our Minister of Transport for Czech Republic, Mr. Martin Kupka. You have plans to do it. Yeah, what is the idea? How to get the money? What is the financial architecture for that? You know, are you counting for Europe, or is it?
Thank you. Firstly, I'd like to thank you very much, dear Dariusz, for organizing this forum. And I'd like to use this forum also for pleading for the most robust multi-annual financial framework for transport connections. And I'm sure that also the modern and the efficient transport infrastructure is the key and fundamental prerequisite for the next economical success of European Union, and also the better resilience of the European Union, and as well the better competitiveness of the European Union. And I think that it's also one of the most significant recommendation from the for the Draghi's report. And it's necessary to invest to the better connection throughout the whole European Union. And I'd like to say that the high-speed lines, high-speed railway, it's the definitely fundamental part of this new and modern infrastructure. And I can appreciate, as you all, the new revision of 10T, because it reflects all new requirements and also commitments. But now it's necessary to find, I can say, the appropriate financing of all these new requirements and the new revision 10T. And I'm absolutely sure that it will be necessary to have the more robust fundings for infrastructure, and also to combine the new financial tools for this. For example, public-private partnerships, and also the national funds, and also the European funds as well. The Czech Republic has as a key project the national flagship. It's the new high-speed line which will connect Berlin, Prague and Vienna, and also Warsaw via Northern Link, also towards Baltic rails. And I think that it will be the answer for the questions how to make the whole European Union better connected, and how to create also the alternative for the air connections. And I think that the high-speed lines will play this role as a more sustainable alternative for planes. But for unlock all benefits of the high-speed lines, there will be absolutely necessary to construct all missing links, all missing sections of high-speed lines, and the modern railway connection throughout the whole European Union. And I'd like to inform you as well about the Czech initiative and the letter of the Prime Ministers. And today, or not today, but this Monday, the Czech Prime Minister sent the letter of the Prime Ministers of 11 member states to Ursula von der Leyen. And I'd like to say thank you very much for all participants on this letter, because it's not only the work of Czech Republic, but also Estonia, Italy, Latvia, Lithuania, Portugal, Hungary, Slovakia, Spain, Greece, and Romania. And I think that it's the way how to make more robust fund, and especially CEF3 as a concrete tool, how to support the next investments for high-speed lines throughout the whole European Union. And I think that it's something crucial also I have mentioned for the better resilience of the European Union. Because the better connections and all the other previous conflicts and geopolitical problems, it showed that it's necessary to have better connection throughout the whole European Union for all difficulties and for all difficult times. I'm afraid that also in the future we will face to the different external threats and also internal threats. And I see the really efficient transport infrastructure as a key medicine for the better future of the European Union. And I think that it's our common issue. And I'd like to invite all of you for the next support to the really necessary investment to the transport infrastructure in the different areas. But I think that the high-speed lines, it's something like also the tool how to face the competition with the United States of America and also the China in this also economical competition. Thank you very much, and I think that it will be possible to practically discuss all possibilities how to support all these financial tools for the future.
I hear more money and high aspirations and for investment projects in Europe. Of course, you're speaking of on behalf of your governments, but on behalf of European citizens, of people that you represent. So I think it's a role of the European Commission now, and Piotr Serafin, who is a Polish delegated commissioner responsible for budget, to figure out how to manage those expectations. And I would like to ask Director General Magda Kopczyńska, what is your view on that, on this managing expectations in the coming years, and discussion about CEF3 that was mentioned here by Minister Kupka?
Thank you. Thank you so much for this question, and I will ask to be excused that I will actually speak English, because I will be saying some things directly to the ministers who are on stage, and I know they are good interpreters, but maybe it's even easier. But thank you for this question, and I was just thinking, listening to all the interventions, that everybody is talking about the need to have a vision and to know where we are going. And it's really good to be here, because I know that I don't need to convince anybody in this room that transport matters. That we have learned so many times in the last couple of years that without well-functioning transport connections, we can't function as European citizens, European economy cannot function, and after the dramatic full-scale invasion of Russia and Ukraine, without transport connectivity, Ukraine will not survive, but also, let's not forget, our economy will not do so well, because we are bringing a lot of goods to Ukraine to help the country fight the war. And without well-functioning transport networks, transport infrastructure, transport companies, none of that would happen. So I really like to hear from ministers that we all know that transport is crucial and connectivity in the EU is critical. But transport also matters because this is what brings and makes Europe one. And all of you mentioned critical links, all of you mentioned cross-border connections, and that brings me to that other part of the vision. When I think about vision for transport, I do think about trans-European transport networks, the map that we have all agreed upon, which really beautifully presents that Europe and its neighboring countries, Moldova, Ukraine, Western Balkans, that we are a one continent, and that having that map put in reality is what we have been working on and what we will be working on until 2030, 2040, 2050. But of course, as all of you said, that will not happen without money. The discussion on money is always difficult, and it will actually be even more difficult with the next EU budget that will start in 2028. Commission will put on the table the proposal for the new EU budget around summer this year. Exactly 2 days ago, a document was proposed by the Commission putting on the table the first ideas about that budget. We launched open public consultations, and I would really like to invite everybody in that room and beyond that you look into those open public consultations and you tell us what you, from your perspective, think matters when it comes to transport. Because transport is complicated. We heard it took how many years for the Baltic countries to disconnect from Russian grid? 13? That's how long you worked. Look at some of the long-term projects that are being constructed in Poland, in Czech Republic, in Greece, in Lithuania. It takes at least as long. We need a budget that allows predictability and long-term planning, but we also need a budget that will take care specifically of those cross-border connections, because it is not only about building transport in Poland or in Greece. It is also about building transport network that will allow for this connectivity between all EU countries. And as I said, I think we have a vision, we have a plan, we know what needs to happen. We also know more or less how much it will cost. And those numbers are big, but we also don't need to put that, and you heard that number, 845 billion euro needed to complete extended TEN-T network. We don't need that number tomorrow, and not all of that number will come, not all of that money will come from public budget, but a lot of that money will need to come from public budget, because there are some parts of transport that will never do the trick only through private financing. But for the last 7 years, we have been testing at the European Union level how to mobilize private funding, how to combine private money with public money so that we can deliver on those transport objectives. And the last but one point that I wanted to make, we talk a lot about security, and it is really reassuring that this is the theme of the Polish presidency, because security is the topic that really matters now in the EU. It's economic security, but it's also military security. And that element will need to play an important part when we are looking at the future budget, and also how we decide where money needs to go, also when it comes to transport. That's why we have been working very closely with EU member states, with NATO, to come up with a map for military mobility corridors that go all over Europe, and really look at all those missing links, critical points, which have to be taken care of if we really want to feel secure from now on. And just the very last point I wanted to say, some of the ministers looked at me and said there should be an EU budget for transport. I can just assure you, I can spend as much money on transport as you will give to me as member state.
Well, the message is clear. Money comes from the governments, so that's important to note. And now I'd like to move to Mr. Dariusz Joński, who is a member of the Committee on Transport and Tourism of the European Parliament, a person that is not only, working down in Brussels, but also a person who is really was born, I understand, you were raised, you work in Łódź. We have seen this, most of you have seen this amazing performance that was commissioned by Minister and Mayor Zdanowska from Łódź. I could say that was very touching. It was the name of it was Awakening of Łódź. So what you make of this awakening, from the local perspective and this, I would say, European and global perspective? Do we need awakening? In what sense? For transport, maybe.
Thank you, Paweł, for this interesting question. First of all, I would like to thank Dariusz Klimczak, because the Minister of Infrastructure in Poland, he decided to organize this debate, this conference during the Polish presidency in Łódź, our lovely city. I hope you yesterday night, maybe you see the Łódź. If not, I recommend it. But maybe not everyone knows that we just finished the first construction, railway tunnel, the center of, under the center of Łódź. It's financing by EU money. Thank you very much. It's 85%, it's huge. And we just last year started high-speed railway, entrance right now, but I want to say that Poland is right now ready to construction high-speed railway. We are ready to speed up, we are ready to catch up railways, Spain, France. So right now, and thanks to Dariusz Klimczak for the work and this conference, because Łódź is right now like railway heart. Railway heart is beats in Łódź, so thank you very much for this. Because we are in Poland, I will say some words in my native language about TNT, because I would like to say some words, because some journalists ask me what is TNT, so I would like to say in Poland right now in Polish some few words. Więc jeśli Państwo pozwolicie. Ktoś mnie dzisiaj zapytał właśnie o TNT, co to w ogóle jest, czy to jest potrzebne?
What does it mean, TNT? Do we really need it? Yes, this is the safeguard policy, investing in rail. Many politicians in this room, many of the politicians will not be present in several years, but TNT network will stay with us. And either us or other generations of politicians will implement it. Governments will change, but the policy will not. TNT network is something that remains and is being implemented over the years. We could list a lot of interesting projects within these mega projects. I would like to say also a few years about the big tunnel Turin-Lyon through the Alps that links France with Italy. It's a huge investment. The idea will be implemented by 2030. It's a very long tunnel. There is another long tunnel that is going to be built between Innsbruck and South Tyrol. Almost 9 billion euros, that will be the cost, and it requires co-financing. The initiatives date back to 1990s. Look how many governments have been there in between. The governments change, but the idea remains. Poland is located like at the center of the network. And I think that with our imagination we reach far further than Europe. We are already, we have the readiness to build such a network in Poland. 60 minutes between Warsaw and Łódź, a railway link to Wrocław and Poznań also. In 2040, we will be able to reach Kiev using those railway connections. I'm very happy that Piotr Serafin, a Polish citizen who is very well prepared to fulfill his current role, I'm aware how important it is to have a stable investment, stable financing. We have mentioned the number, almost 850 billion euros. It is not easy to find this amount of money, but necessary at the same time. The experience of war in Ukraine demonstrated that railway is the best prepared for evacuation, for military transport. In Poland, last year, 400 million passengers chose this means of transportation. So less investment in roads, in airports, more in the railway. The Prime Minister of Poland, Donald Tusk, announced 2 years ago that we are going to spend 112 million over the next few years for the development of high-speed rail, which will be, historically speaking, it's going to be the highest amount ever. Mr. Kostas mentioned that high-speed rail and connectivity between the major cities of Europe is key. This is what accounts for multi-mobility. Turin-Lyon is one side of it, and Eastern Europe is the other side of it. Mobility, security. That's the key words mentioned several times today. Thank you very much.
Bardzo dziękuję, Darku. To jest opowiedzenie TNT po
Thank you
polsku.
very much. This was the story of TNT in Polish, easier to understand. So thank you very much for explaining the importance of TNT for the Poles, because many people in Poland do not understand what TNT is, especially in Łódź. And the last words will be pronounced by Minister Klimczak, who is our host. And I think I will not try to deliver a summary of this conversation, but the minister is from Łódź himself. He is responsible for the activities of the Polish presidency within the area of transport. He listened to MEP Jański, he listened to Madam Director General. So in the spirit of the Commissioner Costas, in the spirit of motivation and inspiration, what are the takeaways from this debate? Yes, I have been living in the Łódź area. I've lived here, I've worked here, and my children were born here. And this cryptical TNT, what does it stand for? It stands for the quality of our lives and quality of our...
He is first-time member of the European Parliament, but it's very helpful for us, Ministry of Infrastructure. Thank you a lot for your helpful and support every area of my work. Thank you a lot. Thank you very much for your voices, especially for high level of responsibility of every area of European transport. Let me continue in Polish. Chciałbym podziękować wszystkim, którzy dzisiaj
I would like to thank all of those who are listening on to our conversation. I guess you must have seen the common denominator. Quality, first of all. It was mentioned by all of the ministers present here. Then the future. The Madam Minister from Finland mentioned it. That's a thing of the future. I mean, trans-border projects. My colleague from Lithuania mentioned the importance of trans-border infrastructure. And what I really like in my colleague from the Czech Republic, that Martin, that is practice, putting things into action. So the practice of functioning within different numerous areas of transport in Europe. The Czech Republic has outstanding results when it comes to the development of railways. I'm deeply convinced that together we can build new projects. We can implement new projects together that will be linked at our borders, but we will be also having a close look on what's happening around us, around the European Union. We in Poland implement a lot of projects in the border areas. I would like to thank the Ukrainian delegation for our close and successful cooperation, and we will appeal for the instruments that we have been using to be continued. We have signed a joint letter with my colleague from Lithuania. That's a letter to the European Commission requesting more funding. We would like to present our shared arguments for the projects that that connect Europe. Transport connects us. All kinds of transport bring us together. Of course, it comes at a cost. It requires a lot of investment. I fully subscribe to what Professor Wojciechowski said. Our experience so far when it comes to project funding shows us that the period between the old and the new financial framework is the key period. We cannot allow to have a break, to pause. The economy is watching, it's waiting, and it will feel the effects of our decisions. The economy cannot support any disruptions and any pauses. So we need to deliver stable funding for the needs of different corridors in Europe. They are all equally important, even if some may think differently. Europe is fascinating because all of our infrastructural projects are important, are vital. When we think about creating new connections, we discover how important capacity is. And it is important at all of our neighbors. If tourists want to move through our countries, if business wants to move, if entrepreneurs want to commute and travel, everybody benefits from the infrastructure that we are created. Poland is one big construction site, and it's going to get even bigger. Recently, in which I have organized a conference bringing together the representatives of the infrastructure ministry and the construction sector itself. Those people who are responsible for waterways, for highways, for railways, met the business representatives. We presented our program for investments, for tenders. We presented our vision until 2030 and beyond. We would like to ensure the business world and the construction sector that we can carry out our activities and projects in a steady, sustainable way. Infrastructure is the backbone of the economy. That's also its bloodstream. This is what the economic success really relies on. We have decided to go for massive projects like the CPK airport, so the Central Communication Port, and the high-speed railways. We are looking forward to the projects of the new Commission. We are very pleased to see the idea to join the European capitals with high-speed railways. Maritime transport is also important for us. That's why we have decided to develop our ports in Świnoujście, in Gdańsk, and in Gdynia. We try to treat equally all kinds of transport. I'm really glad to see the numbers, because on the one hand, we invest massively, but on the other hand, every citizen of the European Union can see the results. And when I see that the planned number of passengers has been realized with a few years of advance, In the past, only one railway company until 2030 planned to transport around 85 million passengers, and we will achieve this result next year. For 2030, we are planning to achieve 110 million passengers. Last year in Poland, 400 million people traveled on our railways, and we only want to improve these results. And when I look at those numbers, I know that when I talk to other ministers from other member states, I can tell them that investing makes sense, because investment translates into more passengers, but also more freight transport. So the effectiveness, the performance, the results, this is what we can see as an outcome of heavy investing. I'd like to thank you for all your observations, for what you said about the future and development of the transport system in Europe. That was a great summary. I wouldn't dare to add a word to it. Climate challenges, competitiveness, the economy, everything boils down to more investment and more unity. We need to be unified around our goals in the European Union. I think that the vision is here. What we need is the political will and funding. So I would like to end at this. I would like to thank the ministers, the representatives of the European Commission and of the European Parliament. I would like to thank our audience. I'm sorry that we ran behind the schedule, but I'm sure that this panel was both inspiring and motivating. Thank you very much. I would like to thank our panelists and our moderator. And dear Minister, thank you for providing the closing remarks. Minister said that the economy doesn't like pauses, but we will be frugal about it and we will give you a break. We are meeting in the second room, 12:15. Thank you very much, and I wish you very pleasant informal conversations.